"You're too ugly to be seen at the wedding." That's what my only son told me, standing in my living room with polished shoes and a stiff smile. His fiancée added, like it was nothing, "If you show up, we'll have you placed in a nursing home before the ceremony." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just nodded and let them leave. They thought I was weak, a ghost of a woman, a dying mother with nothing left to offer. What they didn't know was that I was hiding a secret worth millions, and I was done being erased. My name is Margaret Elaine Whitmore, but I haven't heard anyone call me that in years. These days, folks just say Miss Margaret or Mom at church. I live in a modest little ranch home near Wilmington, North Carolina, close enough to the coast to smell salt in the breeze, but far enough that the silence keeps me company. I thought I'd be proud, joyful even, when my son, Jeremy, finally got married. I pictured folding napkins with his bride-to-be, maybe sneaking a taste of the frosting from the cake trial, laughing as we picked flowers that reminded me of his grandmother's garden. I thought that being his mother would always mean something. That morning, I put on my lavender blouse, the one with the pearl buttons Jeremy used to play with when he sat on my lap as a boy. I even pinned on the pearl earrings he gave me for Mother's Day when he was 12, back when his hands were still small and his heart was still soft. I brewed his favorite tea, the loose-leaf kind he used to ask for on rainy days. And I set out a plate of the lemon shortbread cookies he loved so much as a child. I wanted that day to be something we'd laugh about years from now. I thought, maybe, I'd say something old-fashioned, and his fiancée Rachel would smile and gently correct me. Maybe they'd let me fold programs or help with the seating chart. Maybe they'd remember that before anything else. I was the one who gave him everything. But when Jeremy walked in, he didn't knock. He didn't notice the cookies or the tea. He didn't comment on my blouse or the earrings. He just sat on the edge of the couch like he couldn't wait to leave. And then he said it. "I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding." It hit me like a slap, even though his tone was calm, too calm, like it was some gift he was offering me. "It's going to be a very curated event," he added, adjusting his collar. "Modern, minimalist." Rachel and I agreed. We want the guest list to reflect that. I laughed, gently, confused. "You don't want your mother in your wedding photos." He looked uncomfortable. "It's not just the photos, Mom. It's about the presentation. You've been sick, the scarf, the coughing. It might unsettle some of the guests." That's when Rachel walked in. She didn't knock either, tall, poised, and cool as porcelain. She looked around my living room like she'd stepped into a thrift store. "So this is the place," she said. "Cozy, very vintage. Rachel." Jeremy said stiffly, "This is my mother." She nodded, not quite meeting my eyes. "Nice to meet you." I stood there in my own home, feeling like a guest, like an intruder. "I'd still like to be there," I said softly. "I can sit in the back. I don't need attention. I just want to see my son get married." Rachel finally looked at me, really looked. Her expression was cold. "We've finalized the seating chart and the dress code," she said. "I'm sure you understand it's about the vibe." The scarf I wore suddenly felt heavier on my head. "She's sick," Rachel said to Jeremy, as if I weren't even in the room. Then she corrected herself, turning toward me. "I mean, you're sick. It's admirable you're trying. But the scarf and pale skin, it's going to make people uncomfortable. We can send you photos," Jeremy offered. "We'll even FaceTime you for the ceremony. It'll be like you're there." "I don't want to FaceTime." "Jeremy," I whispered, I want to be in the room. Rachel smiled, but it wasn't kind. Maybe after the honeymoon, we can talk about long-term care, somewhere quiet, clean, peaceful. She meant a nursing home. I looked at my son. He didn't argue. He just sighed. Don't make this harder than it has to be. That's when I realized the boy I raised, the boy who once kissed my cheek and said I made the best soup in the world. He was gone. And the man who stood in his place, he was a stranger. I didn't cry when they left. I didn't fall to my knees or clutch my chest or scream their names like a woman in a television drama. No, I stood in the living room as still as the photographs hanging on the wall. My hand rested on the teacup I never got to drink from. The steam had faded, but the warmth hadn't yet disappeared. Neither had the ache. I heard their car pull away, and still, I didn't sit. I walked slowly to the window, outside. The late sun washed the street in gold, the same street Jeremy used to ride his bike on, skidding into the driveway with scraped knees and wild laughter. I whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." And that was it. That was the moment something in me shifted, not like a collapse, but like a tightening, a quiet, firm decision. I walked back to my bedroom, wrapped in the scarf Rachel called unsettling. My legs ached. My joints were stiff from the chemo, but I kept walking. I had something to do. In the back of my closet, beneath old quilts and church coats, there was a small gray filing cabinet. I knelt slowly, with both hands bracing me on the carpet, and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was a thick folder labeled in my handwriting final. I placed it on the bed and opened it. There it was, my will, bank statements, insurance policies, 3 sets of property deeds, even a notarized agreement for my share in the local beauty salon I co-owned with my friend Sheila. I'd never lived lavishly, but I saved. Lord, how I saved. Every penny, every bonus, every tax return put away like seeds. Jeremy never knew. I was going to surprise him. That had always been the plan. When I passed, he'd receive everything. I'd written birthday letters in advance, 1 for every year, until he turned 50, all sitting in a shoebox beneath my bed. I thought it would make up for everything. I thought it would remind him that even if I was gone, he was still deeply loved. But now, he had said I was too ugly to be seen, that I didn't fit his wedding aesthetic, that I'd be better off somewhere quiet, clean, and peaceful, a nursing home, for me, like I was cluttered to be tucked away before company arrived. I looked down at the will. His name sat there in bold ink, Jeremy Whitmore, sole beneficiary. I reached into my nightstand and pulled out the gold letter opener he had given me his freshman year of college. It still had my initials engraved at the base. I slid it under the top page, pressed it through the paper, and kept going. I didn't stop until every sheet was torn into pieces, first halves, then quarters, then eighths. By the end, my hands were trembling, but my chest felt lighter, like I'd just taken the first full breath in weeks. The next morning, I called Monique Chambers, my lawyer, and my best friend since choir practice in 1978. She picked up on the second ring. "Margaret," she said, voice thick with sleep. "You all right, no?" I replied honestly, "But I will be. Can you come by this afternoon? I need to rewrite my will." There was a pause. Then this about Jeremy. "It is. I figured. I saw the wedding announcement. No mention of you. No mention of me." I repeated, my voice steady. She sighed. "I'll bring the new documents." That afternoon, she arrived wearing black slacks, soft-soled shoes, and a look that didn't need questions. She didn't knock. She knew better. Monique walked in like family and set her briefcase on my kitchen table. I brewed tea, I said, but it's cold now. Doesn't matter, she said. We've got work to do. We sat at the table like we had for decades side by side, notebooks between us, silence filling the spaces where words couldn't reach. My handwriting was shaky, but my thoughts were sharp. I slid my notes across the table. Monique read every line with care. I'm leaving everything to the Rose House Foundation. I said, every dollar, every property, the salon, all of it. She blinked. You sure they've never asked me to hide? They've never treated me like something to be cleaned up before company. What about Jeremy? I left him everything already. I said, my time, my body, my whole damn life. He turned away. He said I was too sick to be seen. That's inheritance enough. Monique didn't argue. We worked for hours. I listed the account numbers, property addresses, contact information for my banker at Citizens Trust. I even handed her an envelope of emergency cash, $10,000, in crisp bills labeled, in case the world ends, and tucked in my sewing drawer for years. When it was done, my hand was trembling so badly I could barely sign, but I did, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. The next morning, I wrote 2 letters. One was for Jeremy. The other was for Rachel. Jeremy, you were my whole world once. I gave you more than I had to give. When your father left, I made excuses for him so you wouldn't hate him. I told you he was tired. I let you believe he cared. The truth was, he left because he was a coward, not because of me, but you left while I was still alive. You looked me in the eye and told me I was an eyesore. You let a woman you barely knew decide I wasn't good enough. So now you get nothing. I hope you build something beautiful with your name, because that's all you have left. Mom, I sealed both letters in heavy envelopes and handed them to Monique. She looked at me, unsure. When should I give them to him? Right after the wedding photos, I said, in front of everyone, let him have his moment. Then, let him see what it cost him. She raised an eyebrow. You really want to make a scene? No. I said quietly, I want to end one. The invitation came 4 days before the wedding. It wasn't from my son. It was tucked between a grocery circular and a reminder from my oncologist in a thick cream-colored envelope with gold-embossed lettering. The return address was from Cousin Renee down in Colombia, the kind of woman who never missed a family event and never arrived without dessert and gossip in equal measure. I knew immediately this wasn't Jeremy's idea. Inside was a glossy photo of him and Rachel beneath a white floral arch. Her gown hugged her like it was stitched from Secrets. His arm wrapped around her waist like she was already his possession. They looked like the kind of couple you'd see in a bridal magazine, perfect on paper, polished, curated. I studied their smiles. They were too bright, too sure. There wasn't a hint of the boy I once raised in those eyes. I opened the card. The ceremony would be held at a vineyard just outside Charleston, outdoors, white roses, live quartet, signature cocktails. Beneath the date and location, printed in delicate script, was a line that made my stomach turn. We'd love for you to join us and celebrate this special day. Quietly, of course. Please sit in the designated family section and respect the couple's wishes. It wasn't an invitation. It was a warning. They were allowing me to attend as long as I stayed silent and invisible. I folded the card, set it on the counter beside my cold tea, and smiled to myself. Let them smile for the camera, I thought, one last time. I woke before dawn the morning of the wedding. The house was still, no birds yet, just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the ache in my joints, reminding me that I was still here. I took my time bathing, each motion careful and deliberate, as though I were preparing for battle. I dressed in my soft gray Easter suit. I wrapped my head in a navy scarf embroidered with silver thread. I pinned my mother's dove brooch to my lapel. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see a sick woman. I saw a mother who had survived far more than people ever knew, and I wasn't done yet. Monique pulled into my driveway at precisely 9:00 a.m., punctual as always. She wore a dark blue pantsuit and low heels and carried her briefcase in one hand. Inside it was the manila envelope with Jeremy's name on it, sealed and final. I handed her a smaller black purse. "That's for Rachel," I said. "Give it to her after." Monique gave me a long, quiet look. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" I nodded once. "I want to see it, just once. I want to see how far they think they've come." The vineyard was everything I expected: rows of green vines, strings of lights, white tents fluttering like sails in a quiet breeze. Guests in pastel dresses and tailored suits mingled beneath the bright Carolina sun. A string quartet played somewhere near the front. I stepped out of the car slowly. The air smelled of wine and expensive perfume. Monique helped steady me as we made our way to the family section. No one recognized me. I was just a woman in a scarf, a footnote to their big day, and that was just fine. I sat in the third row, tucked behind someone's great aunt. My seat was not near the front. I was not mentioned in the program. But I saw everything. The ceremony began not long after. Jeremy walked down the aisle, looking like a man who believed every story he'd ever told himself. Confident, polished, not a trace of doubt on his face. Rachel followed, radiant in white, her gown catching the light like it was made of starlight. She smiled at the crowd as if it all belonged to her. The officiant spoke of love, commitment, honoring those who raised us. I watched my son closely. He shifted once at the mention of parents, but never looked back. They read their vows. Rachel cried. Jeremy grinned. They exchanged rings and kissed softly to a sea of applause and camera flashes. Everyone stood to celebrate the new couple. Everyone but me. Monique leaned toward me. "Now, not yet," I whispered. After the ceremony, the couple walked hand in hand toward the floral arch for portraits. Laughter, champagne, perfect snapshots of a perfect lie. That's when I gave Monique the nod. She stood, pulled the envelope from her bag, and walked toward them like she belonged there. Rachel saw her first. Her smile faltered. Jeremy's brow furrowed. Confusion. Monique offered the envelope. "This is for you, from your mother." Then she handed Rachel the small black purse. "And this is for you," without waiting for a reply. Monique turned and walked back to me. I watched from my seat as Jeremy opened the envelope. First came confusion, then panic, then disbelief. I knew the pages by heart, the revised will, the notarized transfers, the proof of donation to the Rosehaven Foundation. The final letter, I watched his expression crumble as he read the words I had written with shaking hands and unshakable clarity. "You failed as a son." Rachel tore into her envelope. Her expression darkened with every line. "If you're marrying Jeremy for what you think you're getting, I suggest you find a new dress and a new life. He has nothing now. He earned it." Her voice rose. "What the hell is this?" Jeremy looked like he'd swallowed sand. "She left me nothing," he said, eyes wide. "She left everything to some shelter. Rachel's eyes burned. You said she was dying. She is. Then what were you waiting for? A miracle. And then, loudly enough for everyone to hear, I'm not marrying a broke man who can't even control his own mother. She turned, threw the bouquet to the ground, and stormed off. Gasps rose among the guests. Phones appeared. Whispers became full-on conversations. The string quartet stopped playing. Jeremy turned toward the third row, searching, but I was gone. Only my scarf remained, folded neatly on my chair. I was home by the time he realized it. I sat by the window, sipping warm tea as the streetlight flickered on. I didn't need to see the fallout to know how it ended. He let them smile for the camera, and I let them believe they'd won, until I showed them what it costs to erase the woman who gave you everything. Jeremy stood still. The manila envelope trembled in his hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Around him, the vineyard buzzed with laughter, applause, glasses clinking. A photographer adjusted his lens for another perfect shot of the golden couple beneath a white floral arch. But Jeremy didn't move. His face had gone pale, his jaw clenched tight. The muscle in his temple twitched, and slowly, every trace of that polished smile, the one he'd worn like a trophy all day, began to crack. I was gone by then. Only my scarf remained, navy blue, with silver thread folded gently on the chair where I'd sat quietly just minutes before. But I didn't need to stay. I had already seen enough. Across the lawn, Rachel's expression shifted from confusion to suspicion. What is it? She asked. Why is she here again? What is this? She snatched the second envelope, hers, from his hand and tore it open without hesitation. Her fingers moved fast, but her eyes slowed on every word. Inside was a single letter, handwritten on ivory stationery. My handwriting, neat, intentional. Rachel, I won't waste time revisiting the insults. I won't repeat how you looked me in the eye and suggested I be put away like clutter in a basement. But I will say this. If you're marrying Jeremy for what you think you're getting, I suggest you find a new dress and a new plan, because he has nothing now. He earned it. Margaret Whitmore. Rachel's jaw dropped. What the hell does that mean? Jeremy didn't answer. Instead, he unfolded the legal papers from the first envelope, page after page of official documents. The new will, transfer of ownership, final instructions, receipts, even, all of it signed, notarized, ironclad, no inheritance, no safety net, no fallback fortune waiting quietly in a trust. Rachel's voice rose. She left you nothing. Jeremy nodded slowly, like his own answer was strangling him. She gave it all away. To who a shelter, he mumbled. Some foundation for women. You said she was dying. She is. Then what the hell were you waiting for? A miracle. A hug. Jeremy took a step toward her, pleading. Rachel, it doesn't change us. We're still. No, she snapped, her voice rising above the murmurs. You embarrassed me. You let her come here, and you let her destroy this day. I didn't know she was sitting right there. Rachel's eyes darted around, noticing the whispers, the stares. The phones lifted just high enough to capture every word. You let your mother humiliate me in front of my friends. And then she said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm not marrying a broke man who can't even manage his own mother. Gasps, audible now, the kind that spread like fire. She yanked off her veil, dropped the bouquet to the ground, and turned sharply on her heel. Her bridesmaids followed, heels clicking against the wood planks as they scurried after her. Jeremy remained rooted, still holding the envelope, still staring. One of the guests, an older man I hadn't seen in years. Maybe a cousin of Jeremy's father, walked over and placed a gentle hand on Jeremy's shoulder. Son, he said. That woman walked through fire to raise you. You should have let her sit in the front row. Jeremy didn't speak, couldn't. He stood in the middle of the aisle, his tuxedo perfect, his shoes polished, and his entire world unraveling around him. Monique stood nearby, watching. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. By the time Jeremy finally turned to look toward the third row, I was already gone. I didn't need to see the rest. I was home, back in my kitchen, watching the light filter in through the curtains and listening to the sound of the kettle coming to a slow boil. I didn't cry. I didn't gloat. I simply whispered, let them smile for the camera, because everything after this, it belongs to me. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I made my tea the way I always had. 1 spoonful of honey, a splash of milk. I sat on the porch and watched the neighborhood wake up. Across the street, the light above the sidewalk flickered off. Children ran toward a school bus, backpacks bouncing. Life moved forward, quietly, peacefully. That was the morning I truly understood I wasn't dying. At least, not today. I was living again, not out of revenge, not out of pride, but because for the first time in a long while, I had chosen myself. Back at the vineyard, from what Monique later told me, Jeremy tried to explain. He tried to spin the story, reframe it, justify it. He said I misunderstood, that I took things too far, but the papers said otherwise. So did the silence that followed him everywhere. Rachel broke off the engagement that night. Her family demanded the deposit on the venue. Some guests left mid-reception. Others stayed long enough to gossip and finish their wine. Jeremy stood alone, looking like a man who had just realized what the price of silence really was. As for me, I wasn't interested in pity. I bought a ticket to Spain 2 days later. I left a note on Monique's kitchen counter that said, "It's done. Thank you." I didn't tell Jeremy I was leaving. I let the world think I had passed. The obituary went out exactly as I'd planned. No photo, just a name and date. No funeral, no announcement, just a whisper that faded into the wind. Now, I live in a small village near the southern coast. My neighbors call me Ellie. They don't know who I used to be, and I like it that way. I grow mint and basil in clay pots. I drink my tea in the afternoon sun. Sometimes I walk to the market for fresh bread. The woman at the flower stall knows I prefer white lilies. Here, no one sees me as a burden. Here, I am not a dying woman. I am simply alive. And back home, they still whisper about me. Because no one expected the woman they erased to write the final chapter. I never went back. Not to that vineyard. Not to that city. Not even to the house I once filled with lullabies and birthday candles. I left quietly, with nothing but a leather handbag, my passport, and a letter that read, "It's done. Thank you." I didn't need applause. I didn't need revenge. What I needed was peace. They thought I had passed. The obituary went out just as I instructed. No photo, no funeral, no closure. And maybe that was fitting because they never really saw me in life, either. Now, I live in a little coastal village in southern Spain. I go by Ellie. No one here knows who I was. No one cares. They know me as the woman who buys fresh bread in the mornings and mint from the market. The woman who smiles, who wears scarves like crowns, and who sits quietly under the lemon tree reading old novels. The Rosehaven Foundation renamed their building Whitmore Hall after donations poured in from strangers who read my story online. Apparently, someone posted a picture of me standing among the women I had chosen to leave everything to. The caption read, "She gave us everything her family threw away." It wasn't revenge I had given them. It was recognition. It wasn't bitterness. It was rebirth. As for Jeremy, he tried to contest the will, but Monique made sure every line was airtight. He never even saw it coming. And now he knows the woman he dismissed was the one holding everything all along. Sometimes, the deepest strength lies not in shouting, but in silence, not in revenge, but in refusal. When people decide you are no longer convenient, you have every right to choose yourself. You are not a burden. You are not disposable. You are not invisible. You are allowed to leave the room. You are allowed to start over. And you are allowed to live in peace, even if it means walking away from everything, especially those who never truly saw your worth. Did this story move you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from someone to protect your peace? We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real, emotional stories that prove it's never too late to reclaim your voice and rewrite the ending.